Good afternoon, New Orleans, or wherever you may be. It's 4 o'clock Wednesday, so this must be the Baldy and The Blonde show. I'm one of your hosts, Tom Coates. I'm here with...
Michele the other one.
So I still haven't figured out which one's the sidekick. I don't know. Depends on who's telling the story about who's got the show.
Depends on the topic.
Yeah. So,
all things finance belong to Baldy.
All right. Well, anyway, so...
All things free speech.
The way that I just opened the show is the way we open every show, but I think we need to add... It would save us some time if I added like another 10 seconds to the opening.
Yeah.
And that is, I came unprepared again. I could just say that every week.
Well, you could.
Because I have a lot going on.
Yeah.
And seriously, every week I'm leaving less and less prepared until one of these days you're just going to wake up from a nap and you're going to tell me, okay, you're on right now.
You're on. Just talk, Baldy. If you can't take some time to figure out what we're going to talk about.
It's really sad.
I'm just going to have to say, okay, it's your turn.
I mean, Wednesday at 4 rolls around like clockwork every week. You'd think I'd be ready. Nope. Never. I'm never ready.
And guess what?
And yet here I am.
And guess what we could do?
What could we do?
Well, what did you locate this week and where did you
I did too. Yes.
Yes.
You can break the news.
I'll say, we had a show back in 2009 to 12, and at that time, really, I think, we were like people with two heads because we talked about things that everyone talks about now, like the police state, the fact that your free speech was at risk, the fact that we're always at war, prosperity's being stolen from us by virtue of the fact that the federal government just prints money, the Federal Reserve, all kinds of things. And our guest list was astounding. But also we had a 2-hour show, so we could book guests. But we wanted to be able to play clips to show how things have progressed, but we couldn't find the shows.
Because we're so lame.
And I was so upset because they were so good. Like, we'd have, like, Pat Buchanan, who's probably going to get the Medal of Freedom this year, along with maybe Ron Paul. And we interviewed both of them. Andrew Napolitano. Every liberty-minded person was on our show. Jesse Ventura from the left side of liberty. Army sergeant, or was she a major, who was in the Pentagon on 9/11. And we got her interesting perspective on what
Karen
happened.
Katowski.
Yeah,
she's
Karen
Lieutenant
Katowski.
Colonel, I think,
yeah, Lieutenant Colonel. Anyway, so when we went, we decided, let's do the show again. So I said, oh, great, we could do the I Told You show, and every week we could play a little clip of something that seemed ridiculous back then that has come to pass. But we couldn't find
any of the shows.
And we found like 4, and they're on the website. Like, I think we
found a few segments.
A piece, yes. And lo and behold, yesterday, a client was coming in, and I always have clients look at this video of how to give a deposition. And Tom was setting it up for the client because we work together. And he called me and said, guess what I found? All the Baldy and the Blonde shows.
All of them.
And where were they?
Well, they were cleverly hidden on the desktop on your laptop in a folder. And I can understand why you hadn't noticed it before.
Yeah.
Because it said Old Baldy Blonde Shows.
Yeah.
The folder was called.
And it was where?
Right on the desktop, lower right-hand corner, not mingled in with anything else.
Nothing. Yeah, just
all by itself.
I don't understand that.
Well,
now, admittedly, I don't use my laptop.
Because you're an airhead and I'm unprepared, and together this is what you get when you listen to the stupid show we do.
So anyway, you can look forward to some snippets from the old days to see I don't know, how things have progressed. And of course, things are somewhat looking up now.
We always said, it sounds crazy, but it's true. And now we can go back and play it, and it's things like you said that 10, 12 years ago, actually, more than that. Yeah, we started in 2009.
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah, it's a long time. The Saints were going to the Super Bowl.
Ago.
That was when we...
So, but the things we talked about, they have progressed to the point that now everybody's talking about them.
Yes.
And we sounded nuts back then. Well, I mean, of course we sounded nuts because we are nuts. But we weren't nuts for those reasons.
Right.
We were right. And so now our job is to go through, find some of those things, and we can bring sound clips from 2009, 10, 11 to today.
It's kind of fun.
The I Told You show.
Yes, that'll be.
Give me a lot of listening.
Maybe a little segment of the show we'll do, just like a little snippet every week, maybe.
So your job then, while I'm napping, is to go through all those hours of
I'll do that as well as practice law, prepare
Yes.
the witnesses, for the trials. Yeah, no problem. But both of us are busy right now because we do have a big case next week. So, and some other things
Yeah,
too.
but we should at least try to talk about something.
We should.
Here
we are on the air.
Yeah, I know. Jeez. Now I do have something I do want to talk about because I really like Thomas Massey, the congressman from
love Thomas Massey.
Kentucky. So
Kentucky has good people. Rand Paul.
I got Rand Paul. That's right.
And they have old Mitch on his way out.
Sure,
Bye.
yeah, that'll be a good day for Kentucky when he's gone.
Yes.
And I don't mean from this earth. I mean from the Senate.
That's true.
Anyway, so a controversy with Massey started when he was voted against the continuing resolution and to keep the federal government
funded.
Yeah, which I'm all for not funding that outfit.
Well,
but anyway,
it's just crazy because for years, speaking of the Pauls, they have always advocated for a budget bill that you could actually read and that it would have to be published at least a week so that the people, us, our money, we could look at it. And to my knowledge, the only time I've ever really seen what they're doing with our money is through the efforts of Doge. And, it's kind of based on that old movie, Dave.
Oh, yeah. Right. Well, in fact, now I don't have these sound clips. Maybe I will find them for later. But do you remember, this was Nancy Pelosi, maybe 7-8 years ago, talked about the concept of pay-go, pay-as-you-go, that from now on,
right,
we're going to pay as we go, no more deficits.
Ridiculous.
And then I actually,
it
was the first YouTube video I ever did.
Yes.
And it got not a zillion views, but it got like 34,000 views, but I didn't even try. I did it as a test to see if I could blend the video from one with the audio of another. And I took a donkey and then I overlaid Obama's voice on it. So it looked like Obama was the donkey's voice braying nonsensically. So you had a few seconds of donkey braying and then several seconds of Obama saying, we're going to balance the budget, pay as you go, we're going to be responsible. And then it went back to being the stupid donkey, which exactly was what it was.
That's
what
correct.
He was. And then I posted it thinking nobody would ever see it because I didn't do anything. And it didn't blow up and go viral, but 35 for something thousand
in those
views
days that was good.
Isn't bad.
But not only that, but it went higher and they took it back down.
Oh well, no,
they manipulated it.
I think what they did was it went from 250 views a day to 2 because I think once it hit a certain number and it put Obama in a bad light, at least that's what it kind of looked like to me.
Squelched it.
But the pernt is that you had these top Democrats years ago saying, okay, enough is enough.
Yeah.
We're going to pay. They knew it was a lie from the jump, and I did too, and that's why I posted him as a donkey saying it.
We knew they were lying.
We all know their game, but they say it, they get through it. Now you have an honest guy, Thomas Massey, saying, you know what, enough really is enough. I'm not just going to say it's enough. I'm going to vote that enough is enough.
Right.
And he voted against the continuing
they call it a CR, which is a continuing resolution. Rather than, just to say what it is, rather than actually come up with a new budget and take all that Doge stuff out, all those waste and fraud items, they just did what's called a continuing resolution, meaning continuing the budget that was Biden's and paying for that stuff. Now, I will say they do have a plan. And it's complicated because they don't want the budget process to be easily understood. And maybe we'll get to that. It's called, what's the word? It's a crazy thing. Never heard of it before, but reconciliation.
I think it's called the Waste and Spend Project.
Right.
I think that's what they call it.
It's called reconciliation. But when Thomas Massey stood up, as Thomas always does, for the Constitution and for, sound budgets, is before we go off a financial cliff, which no one else, I don't know, not enough people are worried about that, but I am, and many others are, and many of you are that listen to us, of course. Trump came after him, which I thought was the first real stupid political misstep of his new president.
Yeah, it was pretty
ridiculous.
bad. It was unnecessary.
That was bad.
And we'll get into more details when we come back. We got like a minute to go. But so the controversy started with Massey's vote, and then Trump sent out a tweet, and then basically denouncing Massey, and then Massey came back. We've got his tweet We're going to read Trump's tweet, Massey's tweet, got a quote from Massey, and then a few other little surprises that you have no idea what I'm going to talk about.
Oh, boy. So he was preparing behind my back. Who knew?
Well, no, I really, when I was seeing this stuff, it wasn't for the show. Now, I did clip, right before we came, I did clip like a minute soundbite of his. I don't even think you didn't even know I had that.
What, Massey?
Yeah, when you told me there was this really important thing I was supposed to be doing at work.
Oh, good.
I ignored your commands and I clipped Massey. So I did actually prepare.
Y'all can see
regard.
Tom in the unemployment line. Just kidding.
Yeah, well, anyway, so if you're wondering who's doing all this yammering, we are Tom Coates and Michele Godin together. We are Baldy and the Blonde. We're here every Wednesday at 4. And what's our social media stuff?
On X, we are at Baldy Blonde. At Baldy Blonde. And you go to baldyandtheblonde.com and listen to our shows, commercial free. Welcome back to Baldy and the Blonde. I'm Michele Godin along with Tom Coates. We are here every Wednesday at 4 until 5 p.m. Discussing, the crazy things going on in the country mostly.
No shortage of that.
No shortage of that. We tend to focus, for those of you that are new, on peace, prosperity, and personal liberty. Some of those things are looking a lot better than they were a year ago.
Well, that's the truth.
But we try to be fair and point out when, either side steps out of line. So you can listen to our show on baldyandtheblonde.com, also on WGSOradio.com, WGSO.com, sorry. And on baldyandtheblonde.com, we have no commercials. We were talking before the break about the arcane and insane budget process, where here we are again. The budget is, not been produced in advance. We're just going to continue with the Biden budget because that was really cool. What did we have? James O'Keefe caught somebody in an undercover dinner. He's very good at getting people to say the truth. And that person said that they had all these billions of dollars that they were, it was like throwing gold bars off the what?
Off the Titanic.
I wonder if they picked that boat just,
Why did it have to be a boat? He could have said anything and throw gold bars into the gutter, but he chose the metaphor of something that's going
sinking,
down and being destroyed.
going down catastrophically.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
They were throwing our tax dollars, just, and that's where you see these crazy monies flowing to people like Stacey Abrams and USAID and all kinds of, waste, corruption, fraud. It's our money going out the window, going out like gold bars off the Titanic. So you'd think to avoid that, we could have got our act together, Mike Johnson from Louisiana, Mike Johnson, and had a budget in advance, but we don't. So where we're headed is continuing.
Well, the budget's supposed to come from the White House.
Oh, okay. So the Congress, though, has to introduce it and
they're supposed
pass
to
it.
They're supposed to approve it.
Yeah. So there should be a budget.
But there's never budgets anymore.
There's never. We haven't had a. When was, honestly, do you know? Because you might know this. You might be the only person that knows it. When was the last time there was a budget?
I was like 18. No, I'm kidding. I don't know.
I mean, it's like 20 years
I
at
think
least.
the last time that one was passed in its entirety was 1996.
I mean, that's incredible. So since then, we just have this
they
crazy.
Don't even submit budgets anymore. Remember, it used to be a thing. Like before the fiscal year would start every year, they'd submit the budget. We would get to look at it now. It's just not a thing anymore.
No, we operate under this continuing resolution. So
anyway, so Thomas Massey, the congressman from Kentucky, being an all-around good guy, he voted against this continuing resolution because it's just so much waste, fraud, and abuse.
Yeah, he just can't take it. It's like we have the majority. We have the White House. The conservatives have the White House, Senate, and Congress. I know it's slim, but still.
Yeah, well, the conservatives are a big part of the problem.
Well, half of the conservatives are not. Right?
But
They're not conservative.
But I mean, it doesn't matter who's in Washington. We have a $36.5 trillion debt, and it's been teamwork.
Oh, absolutely.
Between the D's and the
question.
R's and the Reds and the Blues.
Yep.
And they are the reason we are there. Then you have a guy like Massey comes in and says, you know what?
What a good
enough
guy.
is enough. And then Trump tweeted out, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically he said, in all caps, speaking of Massey, he should be primaried, in all caps, he should be primaried. And I will lead the charge against him. He's just another grandstander who's too much trouble and not worth the fight. He reminds me of Liz Cheney, et cetera, et cetera.
That's absurd.
So he wants him gone. He's a huge ally Thomas Massey.
Yes.
Of those of us who are really worried about spending, he's the guy.
Yeah, he's the guy.
And then Trump takes him on, of all people, that he wants to primary.
I'd like to know who's.
And then
that was really stupid.
And then Massey's reply on X, he says, "Why would I vote to continue the waste, fraud, and abuse Doge has found?"
Thank you.
It's a pretty simple response.
It's a great response.
Now, when I was supposed to be working today, I wasn't.
When you're supposed to be doing our PowerPoint?
I was supposed to be doing really important stuff that my boss told me to do. And I ignored
Don't tell the boss.
Yeah. No. So I ignored those instructions and
that's great to
I
hear.
looked up some stuff. So luckily I was pretty fast and was able to do it.
That's good.
So you ever hear of a thing called the Freedom Index? The Freedom Index is there's an outfit that keeps track of
how people vote.
New American Magazine, right? They keep
Yeah.
track of the constitutionality of your votes. So I wanted to see how different records of different people in Washington.
Yeah.
So I started with people in Trump's cabinet.
Okay.
Because these are people that he hand selected.
Yes.
And then I went to see what their record was when they were in Congress. So I started with Tulsi Gabbard. She has a lifetime record of voting constitutionally 29% of the time.
That's all?
That's pretty bad.
That's terrible.
But he handpicked her. And I love Tulsi, don't get me wrong.
Oh, I'm surprised by that. Because she's
her
a staunch defender of many constitutional.
29%.
Yeah, I'd have to look into this group that you were looking at when I was working.
Next is, and actually here, let's see here. They say that it says the Freedom Index rates members of Congress based on their adherence to constitutional principles of limited government, fiscal responsibility, national sovereignty, and a traditional foreign policy of avoiding foreign entanglements.
So she would have won all kinds of points on that last point, but probably terrible on when she was
she's
voting
a
with
Democrat.
Democrats.
They don't vote for the Constitution. Are you kidding?
And
so she
fiscal.
she was at 29%, and yet Trump handpicked her.
Right.
Marco Rubio, his lifetime when he was in the Senate was 67%. So he got 2 out of 3 right.
Right.
Handpicked to be Secretary of State. Well, then I looked at Ron Paul. Ron Paul, as you would imagine, would be pretty high.
Yes.
His lifetime, 97%.
Well, of course.
And then I looked at Thomas Massey, 99%.
Yeah.
So he is the MAGA world's best friend.
Yes.
And Trump wants to primary him and will lead the charge. That's a fumble.
I think it is. I agree. I think it's the first one.
Now, it doesn't undo all the
hell
awesome
no.
stuff he does. What I'm saying,
There's
though,
awesome
is
stuff going on. But
there is awesome stuff, but come on.
That's
stupid. You're going to lead the charge to primary your best friend.
You know, I feel like Susan Wiles or whoever his chief of staff is has locked up his phone and kept him from doing, crazy tweets and stuff. But this one, somehow he got away with that.
Well, and
it isn't going to fly.
And it is possible.
Massey's,
No.
Massey's hugely popular. So
he is hugely popular.
Yeah, and respected.
Well, for obvious reasons.
In fact, I highly recommend Tucker Carlson's interview of Thomas Massey. It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I have not listened to it.
Yeah.
I probably should.
He talks about. He says the first thing that happens when you get to Congress is you're assigned an Israeli lobbyist.
Oh yeah, he says everybody's got one, but
everybody's got one, but him.
Yeah,
and that's just one of the many interesting things he said. But anyway, so I'll just say real quick with the reconciliation thing, the answer to Massey, which there must be a problem with it, or else because Massey ain't dumb, is that we have a procedure called reconciliation that currently, if we were to try to get what we wanted in the budget, including the Doge cuts, we could not because of the Byzantine rules of our leaders, which can only be gotten around by something called reconciliation, so that when it gets to the Senate, they can't filibuster because we don't have 61 votes, but they can win in the reconciliation process through a majority vote. So if that's true, then I at least understand where we're headed. But that still takes 3 months to get it done. So that might be the political move that has to happen.
Well, maybe so, but
and
even
I don't
if
know
that's
enough.
true,
But
Trump could go to Massey and say, look, there is a way forward. It would require you to vote for it. Instead, he tweets out in all caps, I'm going to primary
Okay, so we
him.
have to go. We will be back after the break. Baldy and the Blonde at Baldy Blonde on X.
I'm a superstar.
Oh, yeah, Tom. This is your chance to shine as the superstar because during the break we were talking about having found all of our old shows today, marked as our old shows on my computer, which we didn't see before. But anyway, we were talking about when the Saints went to the Super Bowl, and Tom and I spent a lot of time in the beginning of our show on that topic since that's all anyone cared about at the time, including us. So
back then, oh yeah,
yeah, it was
all there
New
was to
Orleans
talk about.
a blast because we went on in November 2009, so we were on our way, right? So anyway, so one of the things we did was reach out to the mayor of Indianapolis, and Tom, you can take it away from there.
Well, put it this way: we interviewed a lot of great, high-profile, very interesting people.
We did.
But my favorite was the mayor of Indianapolis.
Because?
So we got him on, I think it was the day before the Super Bowl, the
Yes.
Saturday before. We were doing a 2-hour show Saturday morning at the time.
Yep.
So we arranged to have, his name was Greg Ballard, I remember, and we interviewed him. And I don't even remember much about the interview, except we got him to give us 2 hoodats.
Yeah, 2.
And he was
right.
reluctant to. I said, Greg, nobody's going to, in Indianapolis, going to hear you. He was worried that people in Indianapolis market wouldn't hear him. It's like, it's not going to happen. Come on, give us a hoodat. So he gave us one, and then right before he left, he gave us another hoodat. Okay, fast forward to the next day. We all know what happened. The Saints win. Now, on that day, I didn't mean to, but I accidentally drank a lot of alcohol.
Accidentally.
So by the end of the game, I was in that condition, and we're all celebrating. Everybody else accidentally drank a lot too. So it was a room.
That seemed to have happened.
A room full of that.
Yes.
And then I remembered, I have the mayor's, and he was going to the game, by the way.
In New Orleans.
in Miami.
In Miami.
And so I told the room of drunken friends,
Yeah.
you're not going to believe whose phone number I got. And he's at the game.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he didn't pick up. He saw it was 504. There's no way. Well, actually, no. From my cell, my cell was not 504. That's true. But there's no way he was going to pick up.
Did y'all leave a message?
It was like right after we left a message, did we? So we left him the loudest, drunkest, rowdiest hoodat chant ever.
Oh, I can imagine.
And
poor dude.
That's my story.
That's it. It's a good one.
I got to leave a hoodat chant for the mayor of Indianapolis. It was like the game had been over for only like 30 seconds.
Right, and there you were.
Leading the hoodat chant.
Yeah, and I mean,
anyway.
That was fun. That was a really fun
Those
time.
were some fun days.
Oh, yeah.
I think we got a ways to go before we're celebrating another Super Bowl victory.
Yeah, I think so. We're in the rebuilding again.
Yeah.
Well, we discussed during the break, Derek Carr's got to go, right? Got to go. Do we have anybody in the wings? Asking the young men in the booth of truth. Gentlemen?
Boot of truth.
No, we got nobody. Do we have, is there anybody out there in the draft that we could get?
Look, nobody saw Tom Brady coming, so it's somebody you don't see. No, I'm serious.
Well, it could be
somebody you just don't see coming.
What do you think, Kobe?
If we're lucky enough, maybe we'll get Shador Sanders, who's the son of Deion Sanders, but I don't know at this moment. Right?
So where did he play? Pardon my ignorance.
The University of Colorado.
Okay.
And nobody saw Drew Brees coming after he was injured.
Right.
Nobody saw that.
Sean did. Sean Payton.
Okay. And you're right, but I mean publicly.
True.
So
it's
it's
somebody out there under the radar.
Right. It's not always an obvious thing.
That would be fun to do that again. Never be like the first time, but it would be really
we had some
fun.
fun. You know what? I'm going to go back and listen to some of those early.
Yeah, those were really
shows.
fun. Those were crazy.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Anyway, wait.
So
you
we were
wanted
going to
go...
talk some. Who wants to talk about serious stuff now?
I know.
Now I want to sing
you had
that
some-
chants.
I
and
know. Well,
drink some.
those
I
are-
don't know,
those days-
champagne.
yeah, those are long ago.
But they could come
days.
again. We could all put on our red dresses. Well, not the girls. We just watched y'all. And I had a friend, an artist, Kelly McGee, and she did a really cool picture of Buddy D in a dress.
I remember that. I
Remember
didn't know
that?
Kelly did that though. Is
Yeah,
that who
Kelly
did that?
did it.
Oh, I didn't
If
know.
I think about it, I'll put it on our website because it was so cool. And so I stood in the street in front of the Fairmont because we were going in and out having some celebratory adult beverages. And the parade was so long that literally tons of guys stopped and had their picture taken with my picture of Buddy. And also she put a squirrel on his shoulder because when people would call and say, "Hey, Buddy, I think the Saints are going to the Super Bowl," I'd go, "Man, you're such a squirrel." Right? So she put the little squirrel on him. And then Buddy D's own son stopped me and said, "Oh, man, I need a picture." And I took a picture with Buddy. And
Can I tell you, Buddy D story?
Sure.
I'm sorry, this is so far off topic.
So ridiculous.
I
We
have
have
no
so
idea
many
how we got
serious
here.
things going on in the
I
world,
know.
but whatever.
I have no idea how we got to
We're on
this
Buddy D squirrels, red dresses, Super Bowl.
So I was living up in Oregon at the time, and I moved down to Pensacola in 2000, late
Okay.
2000. And then it rolled around the football season, and I was living in Pensacola, and I had a Saints game on, but I had no idea who this person was on the air. It was Buddy D. Now, it's going to sound like I'm trying to be funny or sarcastic. I'm not. I honestly thought when I heard Buddy D, I heard him for like 30 seconds. I swear I thought that they were allowing a special needs person
No.
in the booth
Oh,
to
no.
talk about this. I'm not saying that to be. That was my honest assessment. And then I realized after a while,
He had a little.
he's okay. This is really their guy.
This-
And then I loved Buddy D. Once I learned more about him, and I listened to him
It
for
was
years.
a hard speech
But my
impediment.
first time, I really thought that they were being
Yeah,
having a special needs guy, letting him in the booth to talk about the Saints.
that's pathetic. But he could talk, but he just had that thing.
Yeah.
And everyone loved Buddy D. So y'all can send the hate mail to Baldy, not me.
But I love Buddy D.
I know you do.
It's just, there's nothing to hate. I was just stupid.
Yeah.
But-
he was, and look, that's a 50,000 watt channel of WWL, right? The
Oh, I
competitors.
listened to it clearly in Pensacola. Sure.
However, I'd
Well-
like to say now they're owned by who? That paragon of freedom, sure to get a negative 100 on his freedom score.
Oh, God.
George
it's a ghost of Buddy D is calling
George
in right now.
Soros.
Who's calling in?
George Soros owns WWL.
Yeah.
You can tell if you listen to them at all. It's crazy
Sorry, I got
lefties.
distracted by a phone call.
That's okay. That's all right. I don't feel like talking about the serious stuff, but
I know.
you know,
That happened to us when the Saints were running to the Super Bowl.
yeah, we didn't want
That's
it.
all we did.
We didn't want
We had
to.
2 hours, and that's all we did. We were just.
I mean, I
nonsense.
guess we could. Okay, I'll tell you what. We could talk about the plane crash in Washington. I heard an interview this morning.
The helicopter.
The one where it looked like the helicopter ran straight into the plane.
Okay.
That was really weird.
I didn't know
I
there
mean,
was
that
a
was
late
so
development.
weird. There was a late development.
Well, that was really weird. And if somebody had told you, if you knew nothing about it,
And you watched
and
that.
somebody said this is a terrorist attack, you'd
looked
believe
like
because
it.
that's exactly what it looked like.
Did y'all see it? Okay, so this
Okay, so-
helicopter looks like it just flies directly into the Delta
exactly what it
airline
looked
plane. This is a plane that's landing in Washington, D.C. in high traffic. And so we had a new Secretary of Transportation. His name is Sean Duffy. And he had been on the job 10 hours when this happened. So anyway, when you look at the video, it's just bizarre because it does look like a terrorist attack. It looks like the helicopter's making a beeline
That's
to
exactly
run into
what it
that
looks
plane.
like. But you have new information.
I do. If other people may have heard it by now, but Sean Duffy's daughter is Evita Duffy, and she's now got a podcast. It's something to do with the Dan Bongino show. So, of course, he's going to go on his daughter's show and probably give her the scoop, I guess.
Sure.
You know. So.
Okay.
Anyway,
This was just today?
This
Okay.
is what he said. First of all, you never hear anybody tell you what happened about anything, right? We don't know what happened with Trump's assassination. We don't know attempted assassination.
Right.
We don't know what happened with JFK. We don't know RFK, MLK. We don't know nothing about nothing.
Right.
So it's
So
weird. You know, I'm
BS.
kind of shocked to hear any sort of explanation of anything ever. So he said, well, no, he just rattled off what happened, and he said, first of all, they have listened to the voice recorders from the Delta plane and from the military helicopter, and he said you can hear there was a young woman who was getting trained at 9:00 at night on a busy Sunday, which was stupid to begin with, and that you can hear her supervisor telling her you're too high. You can't be over 200 feet, and she's at 3+.
350 or something.
Yeah. Secondly, you can hear him telling her that she was too far into the river. In other words, usually you kind of track the edge of the river, but she was out close to the middle. Third, that this was the real part I had never heard, that there was sufficient time for her to have corrected her trajectory,
Well, when you watch the video,
and she didn't.
that part looks obvious, even to a layperson.
It does, right? And then he talked about, which this part you've heard before, but the part I had never heard was I heard a confirmation of the height, of the altitude, a confirmation of the position in in the middle of the river versus on the side. And then he also talked about, I had never heard that there was time to correct, and that also the Delta Airlines flight, those pilots saw what was about to happen and tried to take evasive action, but it was too late for them. But she had every opportunity, according to this interview. Then he also said that plenty times in that airport, if they're not busy, they usually have one air traffic controller for the helicopters, one for the planes. But that night, for some reason, they combined them, so there was only one person handling both. So and he said what they've done already is no more helicopters on the Potomac. Period.
Well,
it's
duh.
over. Yeah, right.
You couldn't do that years
Much
ago?
less training. He's like, if you're going to train at 2 a.m.
Well, okay.
Not,
So,
So it's just
admittedly-
stupid. I'm just happy to see, as I am, like the border is shut. We didn't need any legislation. We didn't need anything. We just need to enforce. How about just some common sense? So I loved hearing a responsive cabinet member, telling us this is what happened and this is why it won't happen again.
Well, I'm a layperson, and the first time when I first learned of that accident,
Yeah.
and I saw that, the first thing I thought was, well, there's no reason for those helicopters to be there.
Right?
And now
That's
they're
what we all
saying,
thought.
now they're saying what? There's no reason for those helicopters to be there, and they won't be. Well, all they got to do is ask me.
That could ask any.
They could just call
any
into the show. They know where to find
sense.
me every Wednesday at 4. I'll
And here
give
you
them all
go.
the answers.
Can I speak to Baldy, please? I need some common sense.
Yeah, just ground those helicopters. You don't need to be there.
And well, he did say, okay, just to be complete in my answer, he did say, except for the president and except for in a medical emergency.
Okay,
That was it.
I'll grant you
Yeah,
that.
that's it. But no one else can have a helicopter there. They're certainly not going to do training flights. But I really was shocked that that she had been warned twice and didn't take evasive action.
Well, there's certain R words I can't say anymore, but I can say
words.
it's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Really is pathetic. Oh, wow. Baldy and the Blonde. We'll be back after the break at Baldy Blonde on X.
Ready?
I think we are.
We are. We're back.
Here we are, Baldy and the Blonde
Tom Coach,
again.
Michelle Godin, Baldy and the Blonde. And you know what? During the break,
Yeah.
we never give out the phone number, and yet we're inundated with calls. And in fact, early on, we even turned one away. Now I feel bad because
Yeah.
somebody else called, and
He was calling the praise Buddy D.
let's just take it.
Okay.
Let's just take the call.
Let's take the
I have
call.
no idea what we're about to encounter.
Here we go.
Probably somebody going to curse me out
A
for
blah, a blah, a blah.
besmirching Buddy D. Anyway. All
Oh,
right.
hey, John.
Is it John?
Yeah.
Hey, John.
Hey, I'm your fellow WGSO.
I know who you are, Jambalaya John.
Oh,
Right? Isn't this Jambalaya John?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I am the counter to flaming liberal. I'm flaming conservative.
Thank goodness. Is Flaming Liberal still around?
Yes. He hasn't been calling lately because he's a squirrel.
Oh, of course he's a squirrel.
so what's up, John?
Here's another. Not much, man. I tell you what. I sure miss Buddy Diliberto, man.
Me too.
He called out all the squirrels.
He was so funny. He was great. Did you wear a dress and march in the parade, John?
I didn't wear the dress, but I watched Bobby Hebert in the parade with the dress on.
Yeah, he had a wedding dress, didn't he? I think
Yeah.
that's my recollection, but I could be wrong. I
So
don't know.
that day, I did that show wearing a red sequin gown.
Yes, you did.
Yes, I did.
And you look so pretty.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
with all these youngsters got to remember WVUE before they became Fox was ABC, and before it was called Fox 8 News, it was called New Scene 8 with Alec Gifford and Buddy Diliberto.
That's it.
And Nick called out all the squirrels.
That's it.
Remember the days of Alec?
I do. I remember him. Remember when he said there were gunshots on the roof? That was really line.
Yeah.
And people loved him because during Hurricane Betsy, that he was the only one that you could hear on the radio. I remember that because I was evacuated with my parents in the Rummel gym when the roof blew off of the gym. But anyway, thanks for calling,
yeah,
John.
thank you, John.
We'll wrap it up here.
All right, so I
We have one last thing.
Yeah,
for us,
I was just looking at headlines.
Yeah.
Just because there's always something funny to talk about, and
Yes,
we don't
not
feel
supposed
like,
to be funny.
No,
but-
we don't feel like being serious.
Yeah,
I
we're
don't
done
know what
with
we
it.
started out serious, and I don't feel like being
Yeah,
serious.
we're sick of it.
So I just saw one that headline. This is a BBC article. The headline is Amazon forest failed to build road for a climate summit. So this is in Brazil.
Oh,
so
no way.
there's it's a UN climate change conference. That's what the UN itself calls it. The UN climate change conference. It's in Brazil. It's coming up in November. And here's the lead in the BBC article. A new 4-lane highway cutting through tens of thousands of acres of protected Amazon rainforest is being built for the climate change summit in the Brazilian city of a city I've never heard of.
Oh, you can't make that up. You gotta be kidding.
Now, here's the thing, and I'm not going to go reading all through this article, but I can tell you I glanced through it during the break, and the locals who live near that highway will not even benefit. It's built specifically to help these people, world leaders, going to this climate summit. The reason it's not going to help the locals, there's walls on either side of it.
No way.
So the locals can't even use it. The locals want to go to town, they can't use this highway.
No
way.
And where are they landing planes in there too? Do they build a strip for their private?
Well, I don't know about that. They probably have to clear about 1 million more acres.
I'm sure they're going to chop a whole bunch more trees down. Is
we've all
going?
we've all known this is fake. We've all known that these people
So
who have been advocating, we all know they're liars. And here's your proof: they're cutting down tens of thousands of acres of protected rainforest to build a highway that the locals can't use, but these world leaders who are going to the summit can use. What else do you need to hear? I have a question.
That's so crazy.
I have a question. You've never heard me pose this question. I don't know if I've ever asked anybody, but I got to wonder. So all these libs that are so concerned about climate change.
Yeah.
They're worried about how the climate will be for future generations.
Yes.
And another word for future generations is unborn.
Oh, yes.
They don't have a real good track record for the unborn.
No, they don't.
No, I'm serious. So they're more concerned about an imaginary person who's not even conceived, but you can chop up a baby who has been conceived.
That's a good
That makes
point.
no sense.
Good point.
I've never publicly stated that, but here I am. Left, please give me an answer. Why are you so concerned with the unborn who's not even conceived, but an unborn who has been conceived, living inside the mother, you can kill that?
Exactly.
How's that work?
Well, that's how their minds work.
Can you explain that?
I cannot explain it because I don't have the mind of a leftist.
Well, try. No, seriously, try to. How could you? I can't think
They're
of a way
concerned
around
about.
that
I'll
one.
tell you what they're really thinking about. I do know. They think that they're going to be transformed into robotic blends. They're transhumanist. So they think they're going to get.
It's not the everyday lib on the street. They're not.
They're
Thinking
not-
like
first
that.
of all,
the elites are thinking like
That's
that.
what. Well, that's who this is all about, right?
I'm-
I thought you
I'm
were talking
talk-
about the people making their own.
No, because everything out of their mouths is a lie.
Of course.
Here's one more.
You mean
here's
just average
the average
leftists?
Joe? You're so concerned about the future.
Those are the same
Those
people
are
that
the-
want to, as you know, save the whale, kill the baby. That's them.
It's all
Yeah.
about virtue signaling.
Sure,
But now
it's
here's
all
one
it
other
is.
line from this BBC article. It says, the Amazon plays a vital role in absorbing carbon for the world and providing biodiversity, and many say this deforestation contradicts the very purpose of a climate summit. It doesn't, because the purpose of a climate summit is really to figure out a way to steal more money, right? It does not contradict the purpose of the climate summit.
Correct.
It underscores it.
I'm taking your picture because
Why?
because my sister is calling me, which means she's not listening to me. It's Boots of all people
Yeah,
is
but
calling.
why? So why is that? Why you got to take my picture?
I'm just gonna take your picture and send it to her so she knows. Like,
What she wants?
I'm
Like
busy.
proof of life or something?
I
What?
just want her to be reminded that she's calling us while we're on the
Oh,
air.
jeez. So
So I
you have
gotta-
to interrupt the show to take my picture
I
to
actually
then
did.
announce.
I had to.
Just take it up with your sister later.
I'm gonna because I'm playing cards at her house tonight. It's probably why she's calling, or she wants me to play Mexican dominoes. Anyone?
Never heard of it.
Right? I mean, I'd rather play rummy.
Is that where everybody drinks margaritas?
Well, I think there may
Okay.
be there could be some alcoholic beverages involved.
All right. So we have a minute
It's-
36 left. Any words of wisdom? I'm all out. I'm spent.
I got nothing.
It's like when I homeschool. So I homeschooled my kid. As you know, I homeschooled my daughter
I do.
almost all the way through.
And she did so poorly.
But
right. She's
She
scholarships.
graduated summa cum laude 2 years early.
Yeah, like a master's degree
But-
at age 18 or
But
something. Yeah.
the point is, so when I set out to homeschool her when she was like 6,
Yeah.
I taught her everything I knew in like the first 3 minutes, and then
Yeah.
I was out.
Then you were done.
Like I don't know what else to tell you, kid.
I don't
just
know.
told you everything I know in
Well,
the world.
Let me tell everybody that you can check us out at Baldy Blonde on X.
Yeah. Okay. Now you have 58 seconds. Tell us more.
Oh, I misread that.
Jeez.
Gee,
Yes, you got
Willikers.
54 seconds.
Okay, well, I
Okay,
got
the
more to
point is-
say.
okay,
I have more
now.
to say then. In that case,
I
just
should've
how to
never opened
find
the door
us. You
for
see that? Look how you did.
Yeah.
At Baldy Blonde on X. We need some followers on X.
We do. And
I mean,
likes,
come on.
Go to our YouTube channel and like
Yeah,
our
some
video.
likes would be
you can
nice.
Find all
How
of our-
hard is that?
You can find our shows at baldyandtheblonde.com. It'll link you to YouTube. And then just like those videos,
And
and that
then-
helps us. Now, our job, my job, because Michelle's not going to do it, is to go through, listen to
Oh, yeah, I'm not
important
doing that.
sound clips. No, you're not going to do it at all.
Oh, hell no.
Listen to important sound clips from our shows from 2009 to 2012,
Yeah.
and we'll post some I told you stuff
That would be fun.
that we